Hello, and welcome to this week's exciting edition of your favorite program, Yilungelo Lakho. It's your rights. In Letela Lona, Luluhlelo Lakmamba Pambili Pela, SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Uyazike uMangolosi Kajali is officially in the SABC building. Githi sanibonani ulusha. Mbukeli, the spirit of Youth Month is upon us in this month of June. Yikho ke kule nyanga lapho phela sizobe sibeka emqoka ulusha laseningizimu Afrika phela njengabathengi abasebasha. Yes, youth and their relationship with money and financial wellness and well-being is of course our main focus throughout this month of June. Kulolu hlelo ke mbukeli namhlanje sibheke phela indlela intsha ephatha ngalo imali futhi ehlangana nayo. Ake sibheke ukuthi umbiko kaNobathembu usitholeleni.
I mostly spend my money on like groceries, data, what else? Probably going out with my friends, lunch mostly. That's like a big part of where my money goes. And then maybe clothes. Yeah, clothes is like a big thing.
Mostly I spend my money on Betway. I use my money to bet and thinking that I'll win, but nah, it's not happening.
Spend imali like I like eating out at restaurants, money in a restaurant, and then
I'm a gymming person, so I spend my money mostly on gym, buying gym products, gym gears and everything. And also I have a social life. I spend most of my money off buying Habli products. I love smoking Habli, and also on data.
Ukusebenzisa imali ngendlela efanelekileyo ngundoqo ingakumbi kulutsha nanjengoko kuthiwa ligotywa liselitsha abantu abatsha balikamva leli lizwe kwaye banegalelo elikhulu kuqoqosho lweli kungoko ke kufuneka bevule amehlo kwimiba idibene nokusetyenziswa nokongiwa kwemali uqinisekisa ukuba abazozisulu zentlupheko kwikamva labo. Kodwa okuxhalabisayo kukudyawuzwa kwemali nokuntyumpa-ntyumpeka ematyaleni kwabantu abaselula. Oku kungenxa yenkcitho kwizinto zamaxabiso aphezulu zala maxesha ikakhulu ngetyala kwizinto ezifana nempahla, oonomyayi bala maxesha, ikhompyutha nobunye ubudanya-danya, ikakhulu umntu engekabi namsebenzi otheni. Oku kungabi nabuchule bempatho-mali kubeka ulutsha esichengeni sokufakwa kwiincwadi njengabantu abohlulwa ngamatyala, ukublacklisthwa ngelasemzini. Oku kungatshabalalisa namathuba ukuba umntu afumane umsebenzi njengoko kwabaninzi kukho ukrokreleka eqesheni umntu ojamelene neengxaki zemali ingakumbi kwimisebenzi ebandakanya ukuphathwa kwemali. Uphando oluqhutywe ibhanki yele nguvimba lufumanise ukuba uninzi lwabemi boMzantsi Afrika luchitha malunga ne-75% yemivuzo yabo ekuhlawuleni amatyala. Nangona ingengawo onke amatyala inkcitho-mali embi, kukho lawo abonwa njengamatyala abhadlileyo alutyalo-mali. Ezinye zezinkokheli zangomso zivakalise ezazo iingcinga ngempatho-mali nohlobo lwamatyala angabuyiseli mva ebomini.
Good debt would have to be debt that would eventually, I want to say, benefit you. Like, let's say a house, you're paying off a house now, but you know after
clothing accounts, obviously some can't pay it, like different shops, whether it's shoe shops or clothing shops or furniture shops. It's a bad debt.
Spend money, kinto yaziba izokbenefita in the future run. For instance, spend money like for in the future run, but yaziba okay, there's lindlu yami, nami yaziba I own something one day. Ngoba uthenga manje impahla wathola yaziba into lezo zophelela impahla fanele uthenga enye yabo into zinjalo ibad debt kiliya.
Ingaba zeziphi izinto abantu abatsha ingakumbi abasaqalayo ukuphangela ekufuneke baziqaphele ukuze bangangeni kumgibe wokuba sematyaleni angabenzeli inzuzo?
The decisions that you make about money today will affect the opportunities and the doors that you'll be able to open in future. For example, one of the consequences that come with overspending is that you might end up with not enough money to cover your current needs. And going forward, the record or the financial CV will be presented as you apply for jobs in different institutions, and then they will see how well do you manage your money.
Ngokophando lwenziwe yidyunivesithi yaseVenda, uninzi lwabantu abatsha banolwazi loshishino baye babe ngabona bantu abaye babe nolwazi lwempathomali. Kule nyanga ijongene namalungelo olutsha, okuphambili kukuba zeziphi na izinto ezinokukhulula ulutsha lweli kwimbophelelo yamatyala, intlupheko nongakhuseleki ngokwasezimalini. Nobathembu Zantsi, Yilungelo Lakho.
Sibonga kakhulu kuNobathembu Zantsi ngalo mbiko, and manje ke mbukela ukhuluma kabanzi phela ngodaba lwethu. Asamukela ivakashi zethu namuhla sino Gratitude Mahlangu obuye Chartered Wealth Solutions, sibe nayo noSiskabelo Teme, yena ke umele ihhovisi lomxazululi wezinkinga zalabo abasezikweletini, iCredit Ombudsman Office, and kuzomsi naye ke uSiskgomotso Modimoeng, yena ke obuya kwiBanking Association of South Africa. Ladies, what a great way to start the Youth Month. Gratitude asiqale ngawo sakwamukela ohlelweni sis.
Ngiyabonga sis, kunjani?
Thank you so much for joining us. Ngiyaphila sithando sami. Thank you so much. Sisi, Siskabelo, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
It is always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming through. Siskgomotso, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, sis, for inviting us.
Thank you so much. Kgomotso, maybe let me start with you because you're not in studio with us. I mean, looking at that insert, a lot of youth seem to think, oh, well, according to them on the insert, they're saying that they are over-indebted because of data, because of clothes, and they didn't mention alcohol and parties and other things. Like with that, we know that they go well overboard in terms of ukusebenzisa imali zabo on. What are your assertions at looking at that insert? Is the youth being truthful in terms of how they use money, which is basically what brings us here in the first place?
I think they were. Yes and no. I don't think only it's youth. I think people in general, we're not so truthful to how we use money, which is the reason why budget is very important, because you can't cheat your budget. So half of us, of course, don't necessarily pay an attention on what we spend our money. So it is possible that they thought that that's what they spend their money on. So youth and adults, it is one of the critical resource is, of course, budget. That's the only way you can trace where your money is going.
Gratitude, do you agree with uLokhuzana uSiskgomotso ukuthi no, mhlambe nje bazibona izinto where they spend imali zabo, they're not necessarily taking into account what other youth are spending? But we know, I mean, sisonke sike saba basha abayibe sisebasha namanje. So siyazi ukuthi when we're going to spend things, sithenge icathulo, it's fashion, it's all those things. Ucabangani wena ngale insight?
Ngiyavumelana noSiskgomotso, ngicabanga ukuthi mawungenzi budget angekwazi. So nami angazi ngispenda malini empahleni, angazi ukuthi mangiphumile nabangani bami sothenga iVSOP not the normal one ukuthi sispenda malini. So I think abantu abaningi are not aware. Yes. I think nami ngike ngashaywa when I was looking at my budget ukuthi yo, is this how much I spend on clothes? Yabona that impulsive buy here, lip gloss here, MAC foundation here, next thing you know you've spent about.
But when you think,
exactly.
How are you just spending imali ongenayo ongakayisebenzi? That is my question, I suppose.
I think that comes from our trends. I used to go TikTok, you see what's happening. It's the need to keep up with your friends and what's hip and what's happening.
So peer pressure plays a huge role.
Definitely.
Kabelo Teme, wena sismina, I think ngeke kumele sazi ukuthi labantwana laba imali bayispenda kuphi bebe bazi kahle ukuthi they still studying towards employment, of which iyona ezobanikeza imali. And another thing, bayithatha le mali abayispendayo. Please elaborate.
Very good question. Iqiniso ukuthi aba-prioritize. Number one, priority, if at all, I'm a young person, my priority is probably looking good, is having the latest fashion, latest gadgets and everything like that. So when it comes to money, whatever they get from their parents, whatever, whether they get an allowance or anything like that, priority says, I want that jacket that my friend has got, or even a better one than what my friend has. So inkinga ilapho ukuthi ama priorities wabo, where are they exactly? Where do they lie?
Kgomotso, I mean, what are the trends according to the SAB? What are they indicating in terms of where exactly is this youth spending their money on? I mean, I know we've mentioned just a few things, but I mean, I'm sure you've got some sort of research there. Please enlighten us.
So for youth at university, the biggest issue seems to be the store cards. And I think that the clips actually showed. And I think if you have a young one, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old that you've tried to help them do application forms online, have you seen that a whole lot of store cards pop-up application or marketing that comes just when these kids are trying to do applications for tertiary colleges? So just before you even go into research, just shows how marketing is up in front of their eyes before they even enter universities or tertiary. But yeah, it looks like 25% of the youth that are over-indebted is because of the store cards. And I think Kabelo or my other colleague just mentioned the impulsive buying, and that's what actually the store cards gives them. You know, they can just go and buy clothes without even thinking of budgeting for that.
But then, Kabelo, doesn't that constitute to reckless lending by the so-called creditors? Because how are you lending money that people don't have and don't have a way to pay back?
That is true because, number one, I mean, obviously there is the affordability assessment that a credit provider should do. And if at all they are making an affordability assessment and they find that, okay, income versus expenditure, okay, this young person can actually afford to pay their debts. Can they really then afford to pay their debts? And another thing, do young people even know or understand their credit agreement, the actual agreement that they are getting themselves into? I think that honestly, sometimes it is because, like we have said, impulsive buying. I just want whatever sneaker I want right now. And if you're going to come to me and tell me that I can actually get this debt, I'm going to go and get it. I'm not even going to think twice about it because what I want now is what I want now. Again, it goes back to my first point of priorities. Their priorities are that I just want what I want now, and they don't think about the repercussions of what happens thereafter.
Then maybe gratitude, how would you then describe maybe the current relationship in terms of the research or abantu enhlangane nabo that you've worked with? By manager kanjani youth imali? Is there a relationship with them and imali abanayo, or that they don't have actually?
I think it is intesizbonayo masenza when we encounter people in our profession is that abantu abaqala ukufunda ngemali or ukuba ne relationship healthy ngemali from a young age, they become better employees, and they become better adults. They make conscious decisions about where they spend their money. You know, they become better at saving for retirement. So there is back on, and I think if financial literacy is not taught at schools. So if financial literacy, we're picking it up, abantwana, they're picking it up here and there from umama saying, yay, sabi skoloto. Or so then we end up having a very unhealthy relationship with money altogether, because and I'm gonna, if I've never known 100,000 and I start working and I have this big salary, but I'm not thinking over the long term. So we see a relationship wrong, like from a developmental age, then it persists into adults that don't know how to
I have a different perspective to that when I gratitude, but I'll tell you all about it. Mbugeli Masibuya, Ekefini, 011-714-6918, alternatively 714-6919, consumer at sabc.co.za. Those are the magic numbers and contact details. We're back shortly after this break. Bogeli, welcome back to Yilungelo Lakho. Namhlanje as we launch Youth Month, sikhuluma nge-relationship yolusha nemali esaziyo ukuthi hey mhlambe ikhona mhlambe ayikho. Ungasithinta studio 011-714-6918, alternatively 714-6919, consumer at sabc.co.za. Ngaphambi kokuthi siqhubeke nenkulumo yethu, ake sizwe ukuthi phela intsha ithini yona ngolwazi lendlela ekumele phela bayiphathe ngayo imali. Ake sizwe.
There is not enough financial literacy among the youth, because if you look at how most of us are growing up, we're growing up in communities where most people that we know have like some form of debt or like are living from month to month. So I believe that most of our youth don't have that proper financial upbringing. So yes.
Imali siyayifumana ngamanye amaxesha, but indlela ekuyisebenzisa kwethu iphinde kwathini sijikele.
there's a lack of knowledge on how to handle ama finances akho as umuntu omutsha, because you mostly spend money on things that some are pointless, like food, where you could save the money and buy groceries instead of ukuthenga ama takeaways.
I think for the most part it's a 50-50 split. Half of us understand that like we have to invest it wisely. The other half don't really think too far ahead into the future and end up suffering as a result.
Imali asisebenzisi kahle, sisebenzisa ngendlela engekho right, singacabangeli nasendlini, sasicabangeli nathi. Sicabangeli ukuthi ngalelo langa leli imali ngizoyisebenzisa kanjani, ngisebenzisa etshwaleni, angiyisebenzisela ukuthi maybe kumele ngihambe ngiyoyenza ama savings okwazi ukuthi ngithole imisebenzi. So manje easy youth angicabanga ukuthi imali bayisebenzisa ngendlela ekahle.
I feel like people are young and they don't even really care much about the most important things like saving money. It's all about having fun.
I feel like the reason why I'm in a good relationship with Mali, youth, it's because of financially we're not literate when it comes to that. We do not have many centers.
We are not really equipped as to how to manage our finances. Into esicabangayo nje ukujava nembombi yabona every week, like almost every weekend. But the initial things that has to go in, like imali sisebenzisa njani towards impilo zethu kahle kahle asinandaba nazo, as long as like we live in the moment. Sinemali ngoku xa iphele ngoku sabona ngomso ukuba senza njani ayiqonda.
Oh my goodness, I have to say big ups to my producer. Ubathole khona groove. Wababuza khona nge-money saving. Ukhala ukudushu nge-move. Ladies, wasn't that ironic for you ukuthi nizwe those type of views ukuthi they actually not sure ukuthi imali save kanjani, whereas others do know, but it's kind of like maybe the principle kubona doesn't apply. Kabelo.
That is very true. I mean, I think that as a young person, the more that you're thinking, I've got time, I will see this whole saving and investing thing later in life when I am like 25 and I'm planning to have a car and a house. Whereas instead of saying right now, with the little that I have, I need to learn how to actually manage the money that I have. I mean, we all know the show, I Blew It.
Yes.
You give a person $1 million right now who's not used to it, in a week, in a month, in a few months, it's gone. And that is because we didn't learn from the moment that you had that little bit. Uguti, let me actually see, can I budget? Do we even budget? Because we see it as an exercise that is actually very boring. So you're thinking, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll budget with my mind. There's a debit order, and I mean, this is not only for the youth. This is also for adults as well. That is what we do with money. We hate budgeting. I don't know why. Money is there so that we can use it, so that it can help us to progress in life, but we don't want to do it. We want to just waste it. The whole YOLO lifestyle. Hey, yazbulala, guys.
Exactly. Gratitude. I was going to ask Kabelo this before Kuzan, but if you can speak on it, Uguti, we actually literally only learn from our mistakes. Ngoba says wenzile. Oftentimes, it's often too late.
Definitely. So we often make the mistakes. You get to a stage where you're working, you've splurged, you're blacklisted. Now, so funa move and try and learn and understand these things. But at that time, it's too late. So it's important for a youth to try, and you don't even have to have money. Equip yourself in knowledge. Watch shows like these, you know. Understand how money works. What is credit? How to use it well, you know, to your advantage. How do you start budgeting? No more 10 rand. You can put away 1 rand to build the habits, because it's easier to build the habits, because once on 100,000, you'll know I can save my 10,000. So definitely we must not wait until we get to a point where we need to learn from our mistakes, because I mean, there's so much information. Kunama professional who are there to help. There's shows like these that engage, understand how things work. Exactly.
So Kgomotso, I mean, I'm sure you heard this resonate throughout the previous segment. I mean, the issue around financial literacy at low school level. Any initiatives by SAB that you're supporting? Because I mean, we see that we can identify at least that is the main issue.
Yeah, so we at Banking Association do have a program called Star Saver. It started 2008. By then we used to call it Teach Children to Save, and the principle behind it was exactly that you know, it's like we always say, it's best or easier when we start them young, right? So if you try, because using money is a habit. So if it's more difficult to teach an adult who has used the money to start saving it when they're used to not saving it, than actually starting at them when they're young. So this program starts at grade 4 and it ends at grade 9. And of course, as we learn, 2009 we went digital, and so we try and find these young people where they mostly spend their time. And so I think that resonated with one of the youths that was in the previous clip who said, they don't have knowledge on how to use money better. And I completely agree with that. So it just says to me, as somebody who is so in financial education, to say maybe we need to have more awareness of our programs. We need to have more awareness of where youth can access the content, so they can teach themselves if they're able to. So besides programs like this, where we actually go to schools and we do train the teachers, so that once we're not at the school, they can also help us. We do use volunteers, which are our bankers, from our member banks, to also reach as many schools as possible. But what we've tried now lately as well is partner with the university campus radios, and I'm really hoping that what this youth is saying today opens our eyes to say maybe more collaboration is needed so we can touch as many youth as possible. I don't believe for one that if they had this knowledge, they would be taking this uninformed decision. I do believe them when they say that it's because they don't know how better to use the money. So yeah, I guess, this campaigns that we have in South Africa in July, we have Savings Month. In March or this coming August, we'll be having a Money Smart Week campaign. So I think this came, at an ideal time just to open up our eyes as financial education specialists to see who we should also touch on. Yeah.
Kgomotso, I was just telling the ladies in studio that I was an ambassador for Star Saver for the longest time. And I was actually telling them that even though I remember we took a trip to the Eastern Cape and we could only cover 3 schools. I mean, that is not enough if you don't have added support from the other bodies. So maybe try and facilitate that. Maybe try and see if you can actually get that extra added support from the other departments, because it is really a great initiative. Kabelo, I mean, Australia, is there any other initiatives that are supported by Ombud ukuthi sizame ukuthi sifundise not just the youth particularly, but everybody, because 77% of credit active consumers in South Africa are over-indebted. Bayawa abantu ikweletu, bayibulala abantu ikweletu. People are depressed because of ilokhuzana ikweletu.
I mean, as e-credit Ombud, I work actually with Kgomotso. There is the NCFEC, and she did mention also the Money Smart Week that is coming up.
Oh, yes,
we try as much as possible to do consumer education. And we always say, invite us. If you want us to come to a school, we will rock up. No matter where it is, we want to educate. That is what we want to do. We want to educate. And sometimes we don't, the thing is when people don't have information, they don't know how to get the information. We are saying we will bring it to you. We don't mind bringing it to you. Just send us an invite and say, Credit Ombud, please come through, come and teach us about credit. I mean, for the fact that a 21-year-old, if you ask them what a credit bureau is, they sometimes do not know. It's a great concern. And it's not even only the young people that don't know, the adults as well. Yeah. They don't even know that we have a number of credit bureaus. They don't know they can get a free credit report. I mean, that is one of the rights, consumer rights, according to the National Credit Act, that you can get a free credit report. They don't know. And we know these things. We want to give you these things, but we don't know where to go sometimes. So lead us, show us, we are there.
All right. I hope you can contact iLokhuzana Credit Bureau. You can contact iLokhuzana ISAB for information. You can even contact Lokhuzana Gratitude, Good Chartered Wealth Solutions. Imfundo around imali. So don't just sit back and be like, yeah, but we don't know where to go for information. We don't know where to start. You have no excuses in Konamina. Futhi ngiyabuya emva kwe break. Ngaindawo. Sibongele, welcome back. Ingcingo zethu ivuliwe 011-714-6918, alternatively 714-6919. consumer@sabc.co.za. Those are contact details sikhona futhi on Facebook. I'll be reading some of your comments soon. My guest today is Gratitude Mahlangu ovela Chartered Wealth Solutions, Kabelo Teme from the Credit Ombud's office, and on Zoom we do have the lovely Ms. Kgomotso Modimoeng from the Banking Association of South Africa. All right, so Gratitude, I mean, talking about financial literacy, nina niletha kanjani imfundo mayelana nezemali? Particularly, I don't understand ukuthi clientele yenu, does it consist of abantu abancane or it's a general lokhuzana configuration?
So where I work, clientele is mostly based on retirement planning.
Okay.
So we help people retire, understand their employee benefits, but then we have an arm as well that is called wealth creation. That's where we deal with younger people, just entered the job market, looking to invest my money. What do I do? What's that? So we do get involved with my initiatives as the private sector to try and pledge our time towards financial literacy. But I think in order for the impact to be huge and to be made, we need the government to put financial education as a curriculum.
Absolutely.
Because the moment you step out of your house, you're already financially transacting. You're just not aware of it. So whether we are aware of it or we're not, if financial literacy or finance and transaction hits us every single day. So if we get it into our curriculums and kids learn from a school level, then we wouldn't have statistics like 75% of people using 75% of people's salary going towards debt. So we do the best that we can to educate and empower, but we need this to be far-reaching because it sounds like it's a disaster because the stats are so bad. So I think the call for that must be echoed very loud and very wide.
Absolutely. Sis Kgomotso, I mean, we understand that, of course, the bad use of credit is one of the elements that can negatively affect one's future employment prospects, especially in the financial services sector. But then does this equate to credit being our greatest enemy? How would you then reply or respond to that?
No. No, credit is not our enemy. I believe that bad credit habits are our enemies. And of course, credit has benefits and consequences. I think Kabelo touched on that. One of the benefits is that it helps us build the credit history so that later in life, when we want to make like big purchases like houses or vehicles and we don't have cash, we do have the credit history. It does help us when we have emergencies or things that we need to buy that we need, and I'm using the word need purposefully, not want to buy, but need to buy now, and we can buy them over time. But it does also have consequences. Credit is not free, so you need to take cognizance that there's fees, there's interest, so you're going to pay back in essence more than what you borrowed, and things like things could go bad.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So Kabelo, maybe just on the back of what Kgomotso is saying, let's talk about then maybe the important aspects that the youth should really consider before getting into credit.
Can we plan? You know, sometimes...
plan. And then somebody's going to say, but how do I plan and budget with money? This is actually always the issue that we have here because people are saying we are so cash spent in South Africa. The money that you get, you automatically use it. So they basically say, we don't have money to save or to budget or plan around. What do you say to that?
But we spend the money. It's funny, we've got money to spend. I mean, Kgomotso also just mentioned as well that okay, number one, when it comes to credit, it's not free. I'm not giving you free money. You need to pay it back.
Yes.
And when I say planning, for instance, when you're a young person, you just started working, inevitably you are going to want a car, you are going to want a house. If I'm starting to work now, I remember I was 21, girl from Kagiso, excited that, look here, I'm getting a salary now, guys. I'm richer than Elon Musk right now. And the thing is, I didn't know how to plan for my money. But eventually I knew that at some point I will want a car or a house. Nobody told me, girl, you can actually start saving now for that car. And I'm not saying so that I can buy cash, No, I can still buy it on credit, but so that I have a bigger deposit. If I've got more deposit, you don't have to pay balloon payment. Your installments are less interest. It's all of those things, but we don't know. And if we do not know, obviously, then we are going to be reckless. And I'm going to think I'm going to wake up one day and say, you know what, I want a verpa today. I'm going to go and get a verpa. We didn't plan. And that is what I mean, that even with credit, we need to sit down before the credit provider does their own assessment. Do your own assessment at home. Be honest with your... Exactly. Be honest. This whole thing of you actually just signing a contract and saying that, actually, yes, I know I spend 1,000 rand per month for my groceries, but I'm going to write 500 rand just so that I can qualify to get the credit. Guess what? The following month, when you start paying that credit, you are going to spend 1,000 rand that you actually do spend. So, basically. Exactly. So that's what I mean when I say we need to plan even for credit. We honestly need to start budgeting and make it a habit. We need to also start talking about our financial decisions. If at all I've got a sister or I've got a cousin that I know works in the financial sector, don't be shy. Speak up.
You know, imali is a very sensitive thing, especially in our families amnyama, because sazi nje usikhule kwazi ukuthi yazini into onikezwe uma nobaba at the end of the month, that's it. You cannot do anything ngayo, uzoyithatha uyoyibeka for whatever purposes that you want, whether it's lunch or whatever. Let's take a caller on the line. Sino Sisi on the line. Sisi, thank you so much for joining us and thank you for staying on the line. Ngikhuluma nobani namhlanje?
Hi everyone. Ukhuluma noPhindile Mlangeni.
Hi Sisi, kunjani?
Ngiyaphila njani?
Ngiyaphila sithando sami. Singakunceda kanjani namhlanje?
Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for such an informative episode. Money is such an uncomfortable topic, especially for youth. I just want to ask Gratitude Mahlangu a question. We have a NPO in for youth, and we have an upcoming workshop that we're going to be teaching the youth about financial literacy. How can we contact her or her company to assist us with pamphlets, or her if she can come as a guest speaker? How can we contact her?
All right, Sithando sami, before udrop ucingo ngizocela ukuthi ushiye number zakho ne-production nama-producers wethu so that sizoconnecta no-Sis Gratitude mesehamba. Sis Gratitude, quickly before siye ekhefini, bakufuna bakudinga abantu. You are in demand.
Ngiyamangala, but I think it's such an interesting topic. Sizwele masibukele insights ukuthi abantu abasha abakwazi ukuhandle imali because bayabona nabo ukuthi kunesidingo se-financial literacy and abayitholi leyo nto leyo. So I think I'm happy to hear when people are calling in to want to seek to be empowered.
Absolutely. So bathi bangakuthola kanjani ukuthi ube guest speaker?
Ngikhona ngizoshiya inumber yami, so I think ngizomfonela uSiphindile, but also on email ngikhona gratitude@charteredwealthsolutions.co.za.
All right. Okay, Mbogeli asigijime siyothatha ikhefu. We're back shortly after this. Ningayindawo sevani lezo imali in the interim. We're back fully live and in charge on Umamba Phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. I'm sitting with my ladies, Sis Gratitude Mahlangu from Chartered Wealth Solutions, alongside Sis Kabelo Teme from the Credit Ombud's office, alongside Sis Kgomotso Modimoeng, yena ovela kwi-Banking Association of South Africa. Ungasithinta la studio. We are talking about ukuthi wena uyintsha njengoba siqala ugubha inyanga yezinto yolusha. Wena imali yakho i-relationship nemali ninayo okanye nenzani? Niyahamba niyospenda niyogroova nenza in ngoba phela FOMO or kanjani sifonele la studio sitshela ukuthi wena imali yakho uyisebenzisa kanjani. All right, let me take some comments here. Mulalo Nemataheni says, as a financial literacy activist, this is a very well needed discussion. We teach financial literacy in our communities and are currently enjoying this so much. So thank you guys that are tuned in, to everyone that is tuned in on the show. Ubonisiwe Mendi Kubheka uthi ucela email address yethu sebemsendele usisi and all our contact numbers. Unomvula Mbatha uthi why Yilungelo Lakho doesn't talk about job restrictions in all the work posters or posts, I suppose, because it's always 35 below for people to qualify for a job. What about those that are just above that age? I'm just asking. All right, maybe at a later stage. As youth, it is very important to understand how to spend money and the ways of spending it, because we use that little money we got from our parents or whoever gave us the money, but fail to spend it wisely. So gratitude, I mean, let's talk about indlela that youth can save money. We understand abantu abathola imali go NSFAS, abanye abathola imali bazalini, so they have some sort of assistance, they have some money coming in that they can actually save. What can they do ukuthi bazame ukuthi ba-preserve le mali and make it go longer than they actually anticipated?
Okay, so I'll just start by highlighting the difference between uksaver and invest.
Okay.
So usually most save imali or saver for a specific goal. Let's say ngifuna ukuthenga iPhone 13 Pro Max, ngizobeka mhlambe 100 rand every month so that I reach my goal. Leyo mali
phansi komqamelo, phansi kwamatrasi noma ebank.
Leyo mali leyo fanele uyifake ebank.
Okay.
Khona ezinye izinto ebathi money markets.
Yes. So you can also get interest.
100%. So because then you get interest, but then imali yakho doesn't fluctuate. Right? So then you can't afford to lose that money. So a bank yinte right lapho uzotholela interest yakhe encane and still get i-value yale mali oyibekile. And then when we compare that to investor, that's when you're looking at capital appreciation. So ufuna ukuthi imali yakho, it must go the long way. So fanele ubheke izinto ezinjengama-shares, fanele ubheke izinto ezinjengo-property, khona izinto ezibizwa ngama-exchange traded funds, where uthola i-piece at the various asset classes.
I mean, let's bring it close to home.
Yes, 100%. So that's when you have a long-term goal now. So kuzoba nama-fluctuations, the price yaleyo mali izokhuphuka yehle, but then that's for long-term, ubheka izinto ezinjengalezo. But for short-term, bank account, fixed deposits, izinto ezinjengalezo.
Sis Kgomotso, kade sikhumbule. I mean, let's talk about the general health tips that one needs to then remember. I think I've asked this one. Maybe talk to us about what are some of the bad financial traps that ilusha or young people should be cautious of if in the consumer goods as well as services market. So basically, when they are credit active, iziphi izinto that they really should look out for, which end up putting them in a certain trap financially?
I think for me, the most important one is to try not to use credit for what you did not apply for. Let's just start there. So if you're applying for credit and you only need a 5,000 rand or 2,000 rand, and the credit provider respond, for example, and say you actually qualify for a 10,000 rand, always take the credit that you need. The big word is always need. Don't use credit with a want. Credit and want are two opposite, the enemies. So always use the credit that you only need, not what you want. But also don't ever or try and avoid to use credit to pay another credit. Because that could be, unless of course it's a credit like a consolidation credit or consolidation loan where you actually need to consolidate all your loan. But when you get there, then you almost now towards the other side of which you could now be on a spiral or over indebted. So I think if we don't get anything out of that, just try not to do those two. Don't use more credit than what you need. So that at all times you only using credit that you can afford. And the big word is afford. It's not the other way around. You don't get credit and see if you can afford. You only get credit that you can afford. So always take a credit that you can afford the repayments, if we have to be specific of what you should afford. Always take credit that you can only afford, please. And only take the credit that you need, not the want. Stay away from the want. If you're going to take the credit to buy grocery or going to buy clothes, that's a want. Just save for your wants and use credit only for your need, please. And don't use credit for, like I said, to pay another credit.
So maybe just while you're on that point, please elaborate the very huge difference between the word need versus want, because I'm sure Kono Munya who's going to justify a want as a need. We know those people.
So I laugh because every time we're in the classrooms with the Star Saver grade 4 to 9s, even the teachers start arguing with us that no, please, my stiletto is a need. I always say, if you can live without it, if you will not die, it's a want. If you really can live without it, it's a want. So a want for me and you could be different, right? A want could be a car, really, because I really need to get to work and I can't use an Uber or taxi. But if for you, if it's not a need for you, if you can get to work, for example, and you don't really need a car, it's want. So wants are different to different people. But I think for me, the easiest way is always to say, before you apply for credit for that thing, ask yourself, am I going to die if I don't get this thing? Do I need this thing to survive? If you can survive without it, it's probably a want. Stay away from it or save for it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Kgomotso. Very quickly, before Sek is a break in Kabelo, when your definition of needs versus wants, because njengoba ngishilo umuntu omunye njengoba esho futhi noKgomotso ukuthi we can have different needs and wants.
The moment that we become very emotional when it comes to money and spending, and I'm going to make an example about myself. You know, sometimes we have to be honest. I was exhausted, I was tired, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna spoil myself and I'm gonna get my nails done. I didn't plan for it, but I did it. That was just a want. Trust me, had I woken up the next day and I didn't have my nails done, I would have been fine. So honestly, it is one of those things that if you can live without it, trust me, you are fine. And need is a house, a car, and if at all you need food. You know, exactly. And I mean, credit is a tool that is meant to assist, to advance us in life, not so that it becomes a headache and something when you think about it is like, oh my gosh, this horrible, horrible thing.
Unknown calls.
I'm always seven.
Mbukeli ungabike trapped now between ukuthi decide kahle between a need and a want. 011-714-6918, alternatively 714-6919. consumer@sabc.co.za. nginiphethe la ku Facebook ngiyabonga umvakaleli Kev. Well, it's our final segment. So sesizothi nje qwapho ngamafu. Ama lines wethu asavuliwe nazi number on the screen. My guest uses Gratitude Mahlangu, uses Kabelo Teme alongside uses Kgomotso Modimoeng. Very quickly, Gratitude, how can young people then balance spending and saving in such a way that they still feel like they're enjoying themselves but also saving for the future?
I always call this the happy medium. So as umuntu ngiyazi nami ngiyathanda uku have fun, ngiyathanda ukuzi-enjoya, but then that will catch up with you in the long run. Uzozithola mhlambe sowukweleta abantu abaningi, like we said, ubalekela abomashonisa. So I think you always have to find happy medium. While you are saving, budgets. Yabona njengoba usisi Kabelo bekathi budgets ibalekile ngempela, because what you can do then is be intentional about where you spend your money. So we are khona ukuthi okay, ngihola 100 rand, u20 rand is for entertainment, 10 rand is for saving, 50 rand waloko. So that you have intention about your money. Uyazi imali yakho iyaphi, because if you don't do it, then the backside of that is that uzithola useyikweleteni, uzithola ungazi ukuthi wenzeni, uyasebenza, so overdraft at the end of the month. Yabona into ezinjalo. So you always need to find a happy medium. Ngiyazi akusimnandi, but they say adulting is not nice, so is not having good money habits, I think.
Oh, that is amazing. Thank you. Sis Kabs, I mean, siyazi ukuthi young people that don't have ilokuzani credit history, they often charge high interest rates for certain purchases. How do you then advise them on building their credit score? Credit active, engekho exuberant.
The reason why with young people, most of them, they start with clothing retail accounts is because it is easier for them to actually get those accounts. And this is now for the young person who's saying that, yes, all I want is to build my credit profile. All I want right now is so that next time I actually want a car or a house, that at least there is some credit history on my account, on my credit profile. We rather just go get a retail account, manage it for like 6 months or a year. Manage it. Very, very important. Manage it. Pay it. Don't say, I'm just going to go and buy clothes.
Why pay it? Why you to manage it?
Pay your account. But basically, it's pay paying it. Pay your account. You make sure that you actually pay it on a monthly basis, on time, as per your credit agreement, and that way they will see your future credit providers will be able to see that, okay, this is a responsible consumer, therefore we will be able to grant them credit when they do that assessment. So yes, we know that right now it may be very, very frustrating to say that, but so you are telling me that I need to get credit to get credit. Yes, unfortunately, that is how it is. But it's not even unfortunate. If you can manage or pay your debts on time, then trust me, you will have a beautiful credit life.
Kgomotso, maybe in closing on your side, just on the back of what Usis Kabelo said, what sort of credit then should these youth that we've spoken about consider that will not affect them in a negative way in the long run?
I'm just going to say, in short, the credit that you can afford. So I think Kabelo likely gave them an example of what kind of credit they can take. Look, if you can afford, you have to afford credit. That's a big thing. If you can't afford the repayment, then don't take it. We know the same. Like you said, some of the youth still get money from their parents, and parents could afford to give you more money than the others. Take credit that you can afford, but I think the biggest thing, always go according to your needs. So we're not the same. Whether you shop for savings products or savings pockets or savings accounts or credit accounts or credit account products, shop according to your needs. So find credit that suits your needs and find the credit that suits your budget. I think you keep saying, it's all about your relationship with money, and a good partner of ours always say, would money date you? So if you close your eyes and you think money wouldn't date you, you clearly don't have a good relationship with it.
Kgomotso, thank you so much for your input this afternoon. That is Ms. Kgomotso Modimoeng from the Banking Association of South Africa. One last one before we go. Ubukisi Meyiwa Uti, hi guys, can the ladies please drop their contacts so that we can talk to them? And thank you so much for this informative episode. Ladies, thank you so much. You've been absolutely amazing. Your Amalokuzana, your information is available when information for all the ladies is available it has been available on the show as well as on our social media platforms. I've been with us Gratitude Mahlangu from Chartered Wealth Solutions, Ms. Kabelo Teme from the Credit Ombud's office, as well as Ms. Kgomotso Modimoeng from the Banking Association. Ladies, it's been an absolutely splendid time, and I've actually enjoyed spending time with you rather. Thank you so much for joining us. Mbukele umajali uthi akanishiye uyazi-ke mina ungahlangani nami ungitshela ukuthi you are over indebted, because ngizokurefera back to this show. Msale kahle emakhaya. Keep saving. Bye.